Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to another Acumatica Network video. Today we're going to be discussing one of a little bit more complicated topics, such as setting up the e-commerce and more specifically the BigCommerce connector within Acumatica. So for my out-of-the-box system that you see, we have some construction project management off to the left. I'm just using an out-of-box snapshot that Acumatica provides. But for your purposes, if you're following along on your own system and trying to enable this, you have to have one feature enabled, which is the third-party integration e-commerce. And you'll find that under the Enable Disable, which is under System Management. And if you scroll down, it's about 3/4 down the page, you'll see we have a section called above third-party integration. It's called Commerce Integration. And this will allow you to enable the BigCommerce connector. And they also give you the option for Shopify. But for this video, we're just going to be handling the BigCommerce connection. Now, once that's enabled, you'll see it under More Items. It will be a shopping cart or a basket, I guess you can call it. And if you want to kind of have it standard on the left side bar, as always, you just highlight over it, hit the pin, and then it's added to your workflow within Acumatica. And if, say, you added it or you wanted to remove some other ones, if you have a lot of different modules in your system, as always, you can just go up to the top right, unpin it, and then it'll go back into the More Items section of Acumatica. So now that we have that set up, we're going to head over to the BigCommerce stores. This is where you'll be connecting and setting up the API keys and your tokens, and essentially giving Acumatica access to the BigCommerce website and gathering all your data. And this is really crucial because this is the first step to do anything in order to set up the handshake between the two systems. So after you've gotten here, what you're going to need to then do is create a BigCommerce website. And for anyone that's just following along and trying to do the training on their end, if you are just testing and you want to see how this works, you can use, which I'm going to use, is a free account. BigCommerce lets you start with, I think it's like a 15-day trial, and this way you can kind of set up the connection, you can play around with it and sync and kind of see how the website would look. So we're just going to head over to their website. You can see here I'm on the free trial. It's going to ask me for some of my credentials. So I'm going to go ahead and start filling that in. And you can choose your store name here. So I'll just choose Commerce Test. You can choose our password. You're going to choose, and you need one special character, so I'm going to type that in. I'm just going to type in my company, or your first and last name here, and I'm going to type in my my work phone number, 8861, and that information will be attached at the end of this video. It's going to then ask you for your business size. I'm going to say I'm not sure because we're just testing here. I'm going to create my store. It's going to ask you to save your username if you'd like to, and this will then get you on your way to setting up the connector. Now it's going to ask us if we have an existing website. Just going to say no. Will you be selling, or what will you be selling? Just going to put I don't have products to sell because this is just a example. What best describes how you are currently selling your products? And we'll hit finish. And now that's been completed, you'll see at the top right we have 15 days. So just keep in mind you have 15 days to play around with this, test, kind of to essentially see how you can utilize this BigCommerce connector and go from there. So now that we've set this up, we then need to start grabbing the API information so we can then connect the two systems together. So to now set up the API connection, we're going to head over to Advanced Settings on the bottom left. Then you'll see it says API Accounts. And it's going to ask us to create an API account. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to create a v2, v3 API token. We're then going to just name this Acumatica. And then we're going to set all of these to the right. And this is essential because you can see here we have get payments methods, modify products, themes. We want Acumatica to be able to control some of this and write data as well as receive data from BigCommerce. And then we're going to hit save. So right here, once we hit save, we got a couple different pieces of information here. We first got prompted to download the text credentials, and that's important because we need to save that for our system. But then we also need to, we can also copy and paste them here. So I'm just going to save them over in my downloads folder. And I'm also going to do, and then after that I'm going to open the credentials. And you can see here we have our client name, Acumatica, we have our ID, secret, and access token right here. So access token is right up here. So all redundant information, which is perfect. We're going to then put this off to the side, so feel free to minimize this. We're going to have actually a couple other pieces of information that we may need. So we're going to hit done. And then now we can see our Acumatica API connection. Now that we've gotten our credentials, we need to then grab the WebDAV information. And if we hop back into Acumatica, we can see we have our API client access token here, but we also need our WebDAV path, username, and password. So we're going to head back over to the BigCommerce. We're going to head over to the server settings. So let's go back here. We have server settings. And then we can see file access WebDAV right here. We're going to go ahead and click on that. And then here we have our different pieces of information that we need to utilize. So what I'm going to do is copy to clipboard all this information. And please keep this secure because this is your credentials to access your system. So save all of this in another system or another storage place and have it encrypted and backed up if you need to grab it at another time. So I'm just going to, I have multiple screens, so all I'm going to do here is just copy and paste it underneath. So WebDAV path, just going to go down a couple lines on my notes pad here and just copy and paste this information. And I copy this to clipboard. Actually, I want the whole thing. And you can see here I just stored it right underneath it. You can even put a line if you want to make it look a little nicer in your notepad. And this way you can refer to this down the road if something stopped working, or maybe you want to just double check what that is to connect something else. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And then this is going to give us a majority of the information we need to get the connection going on Acumatica. So I'm going to move this off to my other screen here. We're going to head over to the BigCommerce stores selection in Acumatica. If this is taking you a little bit longer, it did take a couple minutes for it to load on one of the steps. Just double check to make sure you're still logged into your Acumatica session by refreshing the top left here. Once that's done, we're then going to set up our commerce test store name. That's what we called it on our other system. You can, I mean, this is really for internal purposes for Acumatica to know what to kind of attach these credentials to internally. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. And then now we can start kind of filling in the other pieces of information. So I'm going to go back to my notepad. So I'm going to grab my store admin path, which is the web dev path. My API path, which is the API path that the Notepad has right here. Then we need to grab our client ID, and the client ID is from right up here. We then need to grab our access token. Our web dev username. And our web dev password. And then we can go ahead and hit save. Now that we saved it, we can then test it. And you can see we got a check. So what we've kind of covered, just to kind of recap, is we've gone in and created our BigCommerce trial store. We've gone in and grabbed the credentials we needed from the BigCommerce, I guess, store hub or your account hub, and then we grabbed the necessary credentials needed to set up the connection between the two. Now, on this screen, this is where you're also going to control essentially what type of information you're going to be sending back and forth between the two systems. So you can see here we have customer price class, we have the customer, the location. You can see we have sync directions here for maybe just sending it out versus bidirectional where it comes back and forth. And you can see here we have multiple, we have different options for these different settings here. Now, the other thing to be aware of is we have an active section over here. If they're not checked, then it's not going to send the information back and forth. We have our customer settings here for the classes and kind of setting, connecting the systems for how your customers are going to be stored within the BigCommerce and Acumatica. We have inventory settings here for the availability of items. If you set your rules. If an item runs out of stock, are you going to still offer like a back order, or are you just going to say it's sold out? We have order settings in here for your order types, the time zones, gift certificates, and your payment settings if you accept maybe a gift card or you're accepting credit cards, and so on and so forth. Those obviously are out of scope for this training here. This was just solely to kind of set up a store, connecting the systems so they can now communicate and testing it. But if this is something you are very interested in, want to take the next steps and feel a little lost, here's our information. It's on the screen right now. Feel free to email me or Stuart at any time. We'd be more than happy to sit down with you and kind of show you how these different settings work within the system and how you can really utilize the BigCommerce connector. And as always, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.